guys, welcome back to the channel. Excited to show you guys my hammer ray. Finally, you may have seen it sitting up on the shelf behind me. I've had this thing for about a month. I didn't buy it new. I bought it, well, kind of new. But this was a build that was done by Justin at Big America Motorsports. You may be familiar with this channel. If you're not, I'm going to put a link below. He does some really cool videos with the Losi LMT monster truck, where he has he dubs in real monster truck sound effects of the motor and everything, and he does an unbelievable job. He does the coolest tricks with these trick jumps with backflips, and it's hard to explain until you see it, but the way he films it makes it look super realistic too. So highly recommend checking out his video. But anyway, this was a build that he had started and for whatever reason decided to sell, so I picked it up from him. And yeah, let me go over what he did to it and then what I took over and did to it since I got it. So you may see he did this custom paint scheme here on this body. Kind of a cool look. Kind of looks like the real deal that Casey Curry runs in the King of the Hammers. So I added this the Terraflex logo here, and I think it looks pretty good. So let's kind of do a front to back here, and I'm going to show you guys. I'll cut away to a video I did of just with the body off, so you can see what's going on in the inside of this. But we'll start at the front here. I got these LX shocks, bypass shocks mounted up front here in front of the standard shocks. Partly for scale looks. I had them lying around. They're 100 millimeters, and I just mounted them up with some longer screws and some spacers. Pretty simple, but they definitely look the part, and they do function really well. They do have a functional compression tube in there, which is really cool. I'll go into more detail in that in the future. Just running stock control arms for now, stock camber links and steering rods and stuff like that. I am going to replace those with adjustables at some point. And I do have aluminum front lower arms. I don't know if I'm going to put those on yet. I want to see how this performs with the stock ones so far. But you also see this custom light bar that Justin had made. Really cool piece. It's just welded steel tubing. And I rigged up the LED lights to function. I'll show you guys those in a minute. On the rear here, I mean on the front too, you'll notice the extra little pod lights on the front. On the rear here, I hope I have the bag that this came in, this rear light assembly here. I think it looks super trick. I actually got that with my UDR, was not being used. The guy I bought the UDR from had this. I guess he tried using it, gave it to me with a bunch of extra parts. I think I still have the bag that this came in. I think it fits on here really well and it looks super cool. I'll show you when it's all lit up. Justin also did these custom little exhaust tips here. They came out really cool. I did a few kind of painted the shock reservoirs here. I also painted these little kind of bash bars on the side here to give them a little bit of an aluminum look. Little details, painted the fire extinguisher handles there, silver. He had this little tire strap there on the back. Does have a Vidavon rear sway bar. The original sway bar is disconnected. I don't think there's a reason to have both. This one does the job well enough. Vidavon lower arms in the back. This is a, believe it or not, AliExpress aluminum rear axle. And the quality looks really, really nice. This, I got a deal on the blue one. It was blue anodized. I stripped off the anodizing with some oven cleaner. Super easy to do. Came out nice. Everything fits really well. It's machined really nice, so we're gonna see how that works out. Got some limit straps, front and rear. What else do we got going on here? You might notice the wheels. These are the stock wheels and tires. What I did with these are actually aluminum beadlock rings that came on, I don't know if you can see it up here. These 2.2 beadlocks, they're just think RC Lions brand off of Amazon that I had on this, and I bought some different style beadlocks for my Rift, and these were the original ones that came off the RC Lions, and they actually fit on here. Now you can't screw these to the original wheels, so what I did was I took some E6000 glue and I carefully just cleaned the wheel nice with alcohol, cleaned the beadlocks with alcohol, and just put a nice little bead of E6000 around the face of the rim, and I set the bead lock on there and just let it dry overnight. And I ran these wheels on my Razor Ray, and they got a little beat up. You can see they got all scuffed up and banged up, and they held up fine. So it's a real cheap, easy way. You can get 2.2 bead lock rings, just the rings, on Amazon for like $10. All different colors, all different designs. It's a cool way to add some, like a scale look to your stock wheels for like really like $10, you know. And they only add like, I don't know what they're like, 10 grams a piece or something like that. So they're not adding a lot of weight. It's simple to install. I highly recommend, though, don't use Gorilla Glue, or don't use shoe goo. Use the E6000. It has a smaller applicator tip, and it comes out much smoother than the shoe goo does. So you're gonna get a much better result, right? But just super cool, cheap, easy way to add a little bit of bling to your ride. And I don't really see them coming off. I mean, they're freaking on there. So, I mean, I'll report back if I'm wrong, but I think they're very well attached so far. I did this little custom like Lexan side window piece. I noticed the Casey Curry like real full size rig runs a little like a plexi window on the side here, so I added those in. What else? I'll show you when I cut to the inside, the guts of the rig here. I'll show you I have a castle system in here that I'm running with it has the auxiliary wire function that's connected to my controller, so I can toggle between a rock racer mode, which would kind of be like the stock mode. It is a censored system, but the stock mode with no drag brake or anything like that, and I can toggle it into a rock crawler mode, which means it has a full drag brake and it goes from forward directly into reverse. So like neutral becomes the brake in the rock crawler mode. So being that it's a U4 style vehicle and you're gonna be getting into some really gnarly terrain and it's a censored system, it's gonna be super cool to be able to just remotely toggle this switch right here. Boom, rock racer mode, crawler mode, toggle right back and forth. And then I have my lights connected to a switch here. But let me plug this in and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about here. I got it plugged in already. Let's flip the controller on here. Let's get to my switch here. Boom. So, show you guys here. My channel 3 switch here. Lights on, has a flashing mode, lights off. And I'll show you guys when I get to the interior here, the little switch, an 8-port light switch that I have connected to this. So super cool. I really like the way this light looks in the back. It came out really nice, and I just kind of screwed through the top body here and mounted that. So yeah, I think the lights on this thing are pretty killer. So I don't know, I may change these out, something a little bit larger. I don't know yet, but I could always add more, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I have another like 4 ports I can connect lights to easily with the switch inside. So show you guys the other trick here. So this is your standard mode here. And you'll see, just no drag brake, anything like that. I flip this, boom. Boy, that didn't sound good. Anyway, yeah, flip the switch, it's into crawler mode, and you'll see, I got instant brake. Oh. I don't know what that sound is, but we're gonna find out. But you have, you know, for all, I mean, it goes directly into forward reverse, you know, so. We're gonna get this thing out on the trail, and we're gonna see, gonna investigate that little sound. I don't know if it's just literally just the abrupt stop. I definitely have a little bit of, and let me know if you guys have run into this, because of the way the motor mount is on this, where it has the fixed positions for your motor on the aluminum mounting plate. It's difficult to get a super precise gear mesh. I think my gear mesh is a little bit tight on this, and I might need to double check it before I run it, I think. But it's difficult. I may need to actually file out the little holes just so I can get a little bit more play, like ovalize the holes a little bit. I don't know, maybe this isn't the standard pinion, but for whatever reason, it seems like a little bit of a tight gear mesh. So I don't know if that's kind of contributing to this. Anyway, we're gonna run it and we'll see what we got going on. But anyway, that's about it, guys. Suspension-wise, front shocks, all the shocks have stock fluid in them now. I did top them off. They seemed a little bit low. These additional dampers in the front, the bypass shocks, I have some 40 weight going on. You'll see when I take this off. I don't want to go into too much detail and repeat myself, but what I did with the steering and the servo and all that good stuff. Highly recommend getting rid of the stock Spectrum radio and receiver on this thing. I had nothing but trouble with trying to get the steering dialed in. I could not get full lock-to-lock steering with the endpoints, even with the Bluetooth module and the Spectrum radio. Set both endpoints set to 150%, could not get full steering on this thing. Did not work. As soon as I put my FlySky system in it, perfect, super easy, took 2 seconds to dial it in. And then I have all this additional functionality with the lighting, and I have 2 other channels that are not even being used on this. So whatever else I want to set up on this, if I want to put I might actually put a little winch on the front, and then I could use one of these knobs to control the winch. That'll be super cool. Yeah, that's about it. So stay tuned, guys. Definitely gonna have a lot of running video with this truck, and some testing and some tuning, trying to dial it in. And we are working on getting a little U4 course set up nearby. So we're gonna actually have like a really cool area to run this. All right, guys, let's get you to the inner workings here so you can see what I got going on. Let's go front to back here and kind of try to cover everything. I'm gonna try to go through things quickly. If you have any questions about anything, you want more details, let me know in the comments, and I'll try to do a more thorough review on any one particular thing if I get enough requests for it. So let's start from the front here. The most obvious kind of standout addition here are these front bypass shocks. These are made by LX Shocks, and they are actually made out of metal. These are metal tubes. These tubes are just simulated. This larger tube here, the compression chamber, is actually functional. You'll see it has a little adjuster on the top, and there is a internal floating piston in here. So there's a spring between this adjuster set screw and the piston so that you can kind of pressurize these. And the idea is that you don't leave any air gap in this shock. So as the shaft and the piston take up volume inside, it forces the fluid through this tube. This is actually an open tube up into this chamber where the floating piston then kind of compensates for the reduced volume inside this chamber. And then technically, theoretically, putting more spring pressure on that floating piston is going to resist compression more. I don't know in real world how much this adjustment is going to really do. I do know for a fact that they do function as like a normal shock absorber. I messed around with this. This is the much larger model for the UDR that actually does have has 3 additional adjusters as well as the compression tube. Just messing with the adjusters, it's hard to really say if it makes a gigantic noticeable difference. But I didn't really go too insane with messing with different oil on these. My thoughts overall are that if you're really into the scale look, they look incredible. They do function fine as a shock. I just don't know the actual adjusters. I don't know how much of a difference they're really going to make in terms of noticing it while you're driving the vehicle, but they look pretty sick. So, and I had these lying around. They happen to be the right size, so I threw these on the front. Basically just longer screw, put a spacer, longer screw. I actually used 2 nuts as a spacer on the bottom, and yeah, I mean it's noticeably more damping. So we'll see. I don't know. In terms of tuning, I left these shocks stock fluid. I added some 40 weight to these. Feels pretty good. Like I said, haven't driven it yet, but we'll see. I do have these little limit straps here. They were on it when I got it. I guess Justin had installed those, and he basically just drilled into the arm here on the front. I do have Vidavon lower arms for this vehicle. I don't know. I'm going to wait to put those on. I don't feel comfortable attaching aluminum arms to a plastic bulkhead diff housing here, which is where the pin goes through, just because I know the stock arms do flex a lot, and that's really going to absorb a lot of the impact. I think having aluminum arms mounted to a plastic piece is like the opposite of what you want. If anything, you would want the bulkhead to be aluminum and the arms to be plastic. So I'm going to wait on doing those. I probably will order adjustable camber links and toe links in the future, but let's work our way back here. So we're going to see how these shocks work out. I think right now they just look super cool. I don't know, aside from that, if they're really going to do a ton for performance, but we'll see. Moving back here, Exotech bell crank, aluminum, mainly just for strength. Again, this was on here when I got it, so I left it on there. It does a nice job. It initially, with the stock kind of steering link here, it had a lot of play in it, but right now it's really a lot better. So let's move back and talk about the rest of this. So Flash Hobby 45 kg Metal Gear servo, nothing too crazy. I mean, you don't need a super powerful servo on this. Anything that's going to overpower the bell crank is too much. You know, like you have a servo saver on here, you add something with a crazy amount of torque, it's always just going to overpower this no matter what. So speed is a little more important than power on this. And this servo has done pretty well for me in the past. It's not crazy expensive on Amazon. I don't know, 35, 40 bucks. I used the aluminum horn that came with it. I did have to cut it down. You need a 15 millimeter distance from the center to the center of the link arm here. So I did have to cut it down, and I drilled a hole, tapped it, put in a screw, and I made this link here out of, I cut the head off of a M3 screw, and I used 2 rod ends here and just made that a 30 millimeter long link, simply because the ball studs that thread into the plastic, the stock plastic servo horn, it's not the same thread as any other servo horn. You know, it's more of a coarse thread that goes into plastic, so you really can't screw it into aluminum. So I had to use something different here, you know, and that meant I had to use something different for the Exotech bell crank side too. So I had to kind of retap that, or just make it the hole large enough where I could fit an M3 through there, and just use the nut on the back of both of those. So really happy with the way this turned out. That's going to lead me into, while we're talking to steering here, I think what is the key upgrade to the Hammer Ray, and that's this right here, the radio. I use a FlySky GT5. I use this for a lot of my vehicles. Initially got it for a crawler just because it does have the 6 channels, and you can use this, especially like say like a TRX4 crawler, you can use these for the diff locks. You can use this little clicker switch here for the 2-speed trans. You have a lot of options with this because it's a true 6-channel radio. Comes with a 6-channel receiver, has a gyro built in that, by the way, works a million times better than the AVC function on here. But let me talk about this. The main reason I did this, I could not get, even with this servo, with the stock servo, it doesn't matter, with the Spectrum radio and receiver, I could not get full steering lock side to side. And what I mean by full is getting this to the point where this hits the stops right here, right? Like where the knuckle, steering knuckle hits the stop. Could not get that on both sides. I'd get it on one side and the other side would be about like that far away. No matter what I did. I have the Bluetooth module that goes in the Spectrum controller. By the way, that app works like garbage. Don't even bother with it. It's really not done very well. And even with setting the endpoints to 150%, the maximum on both sides, could not get full travel, right? For whatever reason, the Spectrum system does not give you a full 180 degree on your servo rotation. I connected this and immediately I was able to get full lock to lock. And this thing, it's maybe like 60% on one side, 70% on the other side. It's not even close to being full steering, and I still got way better, more precise steering with that. So huge upgrade. The other benefit is with the 6 channels here, I can control my, I'll show you guys in a minute here. I have lighting set up on this switch here. I can toggle through different light modes with a light switch, turn them on and off, or have a flashing mode. And then on channel 4 here, I actually have, on my Castle system, I have this set to the Rock Racer crawler mode. So if I have it in crawler mode, I have full, it immediately goes from forward. There's no brake. It goes from forward, neutral becomes brake, right into reverse. And then it also has full drag brake enabled in the crawler mode. So if I'm going through a really like rocky section that's really kind of tricky, I can actually have this set up and function like a crawler would. And then I flip the switch back into rock racer mode, which just goes back into a normal mode, which is forward, brake, and then reverse, and then no drag brake setup. Unless I wanted to program in a teeny bit of drag brake, which I don't remember if I did. I got to go through the settings. But anyway, huge upgrade. Highly recommend the GT5. It's like $63 on Amazon now, and you'll thank me in the future if you are still running stock Spectrum stuff. If you switch to this, your life becomes so much easier. You can link this to 20 different vehicles just by buying additional receivers. They're like $20 a piece for the receiver. Like I said, the active vehicle control for, on this, it's actually called SVC. I forget what it stands for. So, but yeah, it has a gyro built in, and you can really fine tune. You can put the exact percentage you want, 0 to 100 of how much percentage you want it to control your steering. Unlike AVC, the AVC will always, when it activates the steering correction, it cuts your throttle. On this one, you can turn that completely off. So you have no throttle cutting at all. It just corrects the steering. Or you can have it limit your throttle, whatever percentage. Like I said, just 1% at a time. You can go 0 to 100. It has an ABS feature where it actually pulses the brake if you wanted to enable an ABS. It just has a ton of features. It's a really great controller, especially considering the cost of it. It's amazing. Let's go back here now. I'll get to the power system. So Castle Mamba Monster X with a 1512 motor. This is a 2650 kV. I'm running it with an 11-tooth pinion for now. Gonna see how that works out. Main reason I got this system is because it's censored. I'm gonna have a lot better low speed control. I think for something that is actually like a U4 type vehicle, where you're gonna be in really rough, rocky terrain, we're actually kind of setting up like a U4 track nearby. And it's going to have some cool rocky hill climbs and stuff. I think having like a censored system is going to be key for that. But the other benefit is this has the auxiliary wire that you run over to your receiver, and you can set up a channel on your controller to toggle between different modes. You could either have it set to a bunch of different features, but the ones I was most interested in is either you can use it to adjust the drag brake, or you can have, like I said, the rock race crawl mode, which just immediately toggles between two settings. So that's how I'm running this. I think it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait to try this. Super excited about that. Let's work our way back here. Shocks, stock weight fluid in both of those, nothing special about that. Vidavon lower arms. This rear axle I actually got off of AliExpress. I believe it's the same. I've seen it. It looks identical to the one that's listed as like the RC all-wheel drive, or even I think the Endura. I think they're all the same. It was blue anodized originally. I got it cheap because it was a blue one, like under $40, and I just used oven cleaner to strip the anodizing off. It fits really well. All the bearings fit in nice. I didn't really have to do any odd like shimming or anything with the ring and pinion. Everything fits really nice. And we're gonna see how it holds up. I think for the money, it was a pretty cool choice. I like that. Other than that, let's see. I got my switch mounted here for the ESC. I will be running this, I don't know, 2S, 3, probably 3S, because I did go down a little bit on the kV of the motor. I did make this little brace here. I don't know if it's completely necessary. It kind of served the function of holding my power leads here in place, but this is basically just two like 60 mil like standoff spacers with an additional little spacer in the middle, screwed together. I removed the nuts that, for the shock mount on the top. But what I noticed is with the whole cage off, there was a lot, both of these shock towers flexed independently, like big time. And with this kind of brace going across here, it just braces the two shocks together. So there's plenty of clearance for it. I don't know. Does it make a big difference once the cage is on? I don't know. I just feel like it really makes the whole back of this chassis a little more rigid. Everything here, the whole bulkhead and everything is plastic. So just having an aluminum piece between the two shocks, which are, there's a lot of force going up through those, I think is kind of a cool little design there. Other than that, I want to order different upper links here, probably aluminum. I typically don't go crazy just adding aluminum for the sake of aluminum, but in this case, I have aluminum. I might as well just, go for it and get the top ones too. But we'll see. We're going to see how all this works out. Let me think. Is there anything else I need to cover? Oh, let me show you guys this. Okay, so I was talking about the lighting. I have I can toggle. I have a lighting switch connected to the receiver, so I can just toggle from my radio, and it has a couple different modes. I will put a link to this down below. This is a really cool 8-port lighting switch. So it just has, one wire that goes into your receiver, and you assign it to a channel. I have it to a little clicker button on my FlySky, and then you just plug all of your other lights in. It's really just your Futaba style servo connectors, just with a positive and negative on it for your lighting, and they just plug right into this directly, and it gives you a lot of ports here to plug in all your additional lighting if you want to add stuff. It's super easy. I just have one connector that I ran out to a little extension here. So I have one connector if I want to remove this whole cage and body. And yeah, it really works well. I like having it attached to the body because I can connect all of my wiring on here for all of my lighting to one spot, and then just have one connector that powers everything. So really cool setup. I'll show you guys how that works in a minute. Not too much else to really cover here. Okay, so the other thing I will just go over quickly. I didn't do anything with the front diff yet. I have an aluminum diff cup on order, and I might eventually do the Vidavon front diff housing bulkhead, just because if I do want to run aluminum lower arms, just because I have them. I don't know, I'm kind of undecided about that, just because I know aluminum front arms, when you start hitting into rocks and stuff, it just stresses everything out and you end up breaking and bending other parts. So I don't know yet. I'm gonna wait on that. But the aluminum front bulkhead, every other 10th scale Ray platform I've had has stripped the front ring gear just because the bulkhead, stock plastic bulkhead, flexes. But I noticed that this new one, the Hammer Ray and the new version of the Baja Ray have the old one used to was split down the center, so the two sides used to bolt together. This one is more of like the Vidavon design, where the front, it snaps together like front to rear. So I'm thinking it's hopefully stiffer and not going to flex as much and eliminate that issue. So we'll find out. I didn't do anything to the front diff. It actually feels kind of okay, It feels like it has fluid in there. Center diff felt like it had nothing in it, and when I took it apart, I kind of confirmed that it kind of had nothing in it. There really isn't a seal on that one. Where it goes into the transmission gear, there's kind of like a groove in it where the plastic cup sits in it. I think just over time that leaks out. But I did put 30,000 weight in the center diff, and it feels pretty good now. The rear, I kind of like, with a solid axle, I like having the rear a little bit more locked up. So I did 200K on the rear diff, and we're gonna see. The rear diff was fairly empty as well. This feels pretty stiff. I didn't want to go too crazy. I know with my original version 1 Baja Ray, that had a locker in the rear, and I had a lot of issues with snapping hex pins and stuff. So I eventually went with a diff on that truck, and it eliminated that problem. So I like having, even if you want a almost fully locked, I would put earplugs in it before I went fully locked. But anyway, so I'm running whatever stock is, 30K, 200K. Aside from that, I think that pretty much has this chassis part covered for now. Okay, one more thing, almost forgot. I do have a little spacer. I'm actually using like an M3 nut between the steering tie rod here and the knuckle, and that's just to space this down a tiny bit. And what that does is just, it kind of helps correct some of the geometry up front here, so you don't get bump steer throughout the travel. It's kind of hard to see, but stock, if that spacer's not in there, when this thing fully extends, you actually get like a lot of like toe in, if I remember right. And then just adding that little spacer there kind of corrects it. So I saw it. I think his name was James Tomlinson. He did a bunch of videos on suspension tuning on the Hammer Ray, so you could check out his videos. He did a really cool setup where he lowered the rear links, the rear upper links down to the bottom to correct the pinion angle and stuff. I was going to try it, but I ran into issues accessing the battery like with that setup. So, but he had mentioned this and I tried it and it actually works really well. So you can't go too big. Like I said, about the thickness of like a thin M3 nut is about right. And it really does kind of correct the geometry here. So. Thanks for checking out the channel. If you're not subscribed, I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe if you want to see more content on this truck or anything else I got going on. And yeah, any comments, questions, concerns, advice, criticism, just comment below. And I try to get back to everybody. I don't really have a giant channel at this point, so I can take the 2 minutes it takes to reply back to the 3 of you that comment on my videos. So, but I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys who are subscribed and who do take the time to comment and say, hey, what's up? Like the video, whatever. Don't like the video, anything, whatever. It's cool to know you guys are out there watching these videos. So, sorry if this was a super long video. How many times can I say the word video on this? But yeah, stay tuned, guys. You're going to see more later.